It's the distant future. Society has gone underground. The Pope is a clairvoyant bookmaker. David Carradine is a terrible ventriloquist. And Rowdy Roddy Piper is an ass-kicking cult leader.
The fuck is this?
Welcome back, ladies, gentlemen, and however else you wish to self-identify, to another episode of TFIT, aka The Fuck Is This? The show where we look at movies. My name is Cass Lescard.
What a solid intro.
You know, it was one of those ones
one of the all-time greats.
One of those ones where I realized that I had absolutely nothing, but I'm going to...
Whatever, you're on a roll. Why stop now?
I'm going to overcommit. I'm Cass Lescard, and over here is Jameson Rafter.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our very first theme episode.
Theme month.
Theme month, actually, yeah.
Yes, we're going to try and get 3 movies, another trilogy, coming off of our unofficial trilogy of movies that don't actually have anything to do with each other whatsoever.
Yeah, we loved it so much.
We're going to do it again. This time there's an actual, honest-to-God theme. I was talking to Jameson a couple of weeks ago, and he said, I'll get back to you because it's WrestleMania tonight. And he said, we should do a movie with a wrestler. And I thought to myself, there's probably a ton of movies.
There's a fucking treasure trove of like wrestler movies out there that we could hunt and peck from.
And since we're recording this in April, and by the time it's
happy Easter long weekend, everybody.
By the time it's edited and cobbled together, it'll probably drop the month after April. Welcome officially to the very first episode of WrestleMania! Emphasis on the May. Do you get it? Does it work as an audio joke?
Yeah, as a play on words.
Yes.
See? Yeah.
You see, it's called WrestleMania, and May is the 5th month of the year, and if you put, it's...
And you may or may not enjoy this theme.
I don't know. I don't know necessarily if I get... If I get the joke myself, it's probably
a bit of a thinker, really.
It's too highbrow.
Yeah.
Jameson, who's our special guest today?
Well, you had mentioned. Well, let's just come out right and say it. The last couple of guests that we've had here, it's really kind of hammered home that it's a bit of a sausage fest here at The Fuck Is This?
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, but we got to throw in some eggs with that sausage. So,
wow, really, really, this is the last time I let you introduce anyone.
And on that note, it's time for us to introduce the most patient guest I could think of, the most immediate woman that came to mind.
Who's silently sitting over here.
My main squeeze.
She is a 2D artist and animator, and my very special lady friend, one of the coolest people I know.
Ladies and gentlemen, Shari McConochie.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you, Shari. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
My pleasure. I'm very honored to be part of WrestleMania.
She gets it. She gets where the emphasis goes on that. Good. Well, Shari, you get the concept of the podcast. You're the first guest we have on the podcast who I know for a fact has actually listened to the podcast.
An avid fan.
So you
Guilty.
You at least get it. What are some of your favorite baffling movies that you've come across in the past?
Oh my god, you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah,
Baffling.
that's guests. That's what guests do. That's the very definition.
Oh no, I'm already not witty enough for this.
Have you listened to the show?
Well, I mean, I don't think this one has like a big star in it or anything, but Zat is a pretty baffling movie.
I've heard of that, but I've never researched it. What is Zat?
Yeah.
What is that?
It's like a guy, he's like a scientist, he experiments on fish, but he kind of also wants to make love to fish. I don't know.
We watched this movie.
I'm going to stop you right there. Sold. Sold in.
We watched this.
Scrap the episode, we're watching Zat.
We watched this. We watched this together as sort of a night in movie date night. And
what a date night!
Yeah, it's a guy who turns himself into a mutant catfish monster in a ploy to get revenge and create like an evolved species of humanity.
Mm-hmm. And craft a lover as well, so kind of like Bride of Frankenstein in there.
Yeah, it was a poor man's Bride of Frankenstein, also a poor man's Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's great. Highly recommended.
I can just imagine the pitch. It's all like, it's Bride of Frankenstein meets Creature of the Black Lagoon, but with more fish fucking. How early in your relationship did you watch that? Was that like testing the waters to see?
God no,
I don't know, maybe month 2.
Yeah, we've had plenty of bad movie nights together.
Yeah.
We've seen Miami Connection together, Bronx Warrior.
Oh yeah.
Did we watch Laser Mission? No.
No, we didn't. I still mean to.
But we watched Hard Rock
enjoyed
Zombies,
your
Shark Attack
podcast.
3. Yeah, she's. If anyone can stick through you with all those movies, like hold on to that one. It's special there.
Stay tuned, because just hearing the titles of some of those, those might pop up as future episodes right there. Particularly enamored with Hard Rock Zombies. Like that. We might do that around Halloween time. And what is your connection to the world of professional wrestling?
Oh, geez. Well, I mean, this might be kind of embarrassing, but in this crowd, I don't really care, I guess.
The crowd being the entirety of the internet?
Yes.
Who will judge every word that comes out of your mouth?
Cats out of the bag. When I was very young, like probably like 5 or so, my next door neighbor would babysit me, and her daughter was really into wrestling. Nice. So we would watch like all the WrestleManias and SummerSlam and all those, and I got very familiar with the world of Hulk Hogan and The Undertaker and Macho Man Randy Savage, Ric Flair,
Great.
All the greats.
On one of our early days, you just name dropped the Nature Boy Ric Flair using those exact words, and I was like, oh, I like you.
Great. Well, what about you, Jameson? What's your history with wrestling?
I was very late to the game when it came to wrestling. Like, it was like periodically on, but I never really got it. I think I was like one of those like stick in the mud, like wrestling's not real. Like what is this bullshit?
You were a very cynical 12-year-old.
I was, but when I enrolled into art school way back in like whenever the hell that was, I made fast friends with this one gentleman named Scott, who is an avid wrestling fan. And just by association with him, he got myself and everyone into wrestling, because I swear to God, the only thing that guy ever watched growing up was wrestling, and it was the only thing he would ever talk about.
The only way you'd ever be able to talk to him.
Yeah, and after years of hearing his wrestling references, he finally wore us down, and we watched WrestleMania 30 together all at his place, and that was probably like the best event for like casual, like non-wrestling fans to watch and be like, oh, I get it now. I fucking love this.
Nice.
And since then, like, we've been going to like the local wrestling shows at like the Russian Community Center with all like the
love the Russian Community Center.
It's great.
I didn't know they did wrestling there.
They do, and
sounds awesome.
ECW, man, like all like the local talents. But yeah, like it's just been one of those things where like, okay, now I get it. Now it's just an excuse to go and hang out with a bunch of people and yell at these really good stunt people and play up these larger-than-life characters in like a big, a live improvised storyline.
Yeah.
Semi-improvised.
I've always appreciated wrestling. Yeah, I never really got into it all that much myself. But yeah, I definitely watched it a bit when I was a youth. Really got into it probably around the time where the WWE sort of absorbed everything. That moment when they took over WCW and ECW, and it all just became one massive conglomerate. I was a big fan of it then. I didn't really follow the storylines. I got into it basically because of the Nintendo 64 game, WCW versus NWO Revenge, which was so fun. Which was so fun, and I got it, and that's how I recognized. And I started watching it on TBS Superstation. I'm all like, I know who that guy is, and
you were able to jump right into those ongoing storylines.
I guess, but it's like a soap opera, so it's easy enough. Yeah, you can pick it up as you go along.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, so WrestleMania. Every week we're going to look at a film starring a wrestler. And that's it. The films don't have to be about wrestling.
I would hope they don't.
Yeah.
I just wanted to go out there and I wanted to see if I could find some really obscure, crazy, weird films, and the only rule was that they had to have a wrestler in it. And Shari, you sent me you did your own research. You're our first guest who's done your own research, and you...
Because she's a fan, you see.
Yeah, you wrote out
prepared.
a whole list
I
of...
typed out a whole list.
Yeah.
Here's a bunch of films with wrestlers in them,
and
either starring or supporting roles.
And it was great, and it was a lot of the same movies that I had put on my list, but delightfully, you did not pick the movie that we're watching today. So the wrestler that we're going to take a look at today is an absolute legend, sadly no longer with us. He has been called the greatest villain in wrestling history, the great Canadian Scotsman himself, Rowdy Roddy Piper, who has had a tremendous film career. Of course, everyone knows him from the 1989 cult classic John Carpenter's They Live,
Heck yeah.
where he came to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and he's all out of gum. A line that he improvised himself.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, awesome.
But through my research, I found out that Roddy Piper did not stop appearing in things. I'm going to say acting in quotes. But he actually appeared in 49 movies.
Holy shit.
Over the course of his life. Most of them...
Quite bad.
Most of them straight to DVD.
Yeah.
I don't think he ever appeared in a movie on the same level as They Live. He's got his other cult classic, Hell Comes to Frog Town.
Oh, yeah.
The very first time I was watching that with some friends, we just told the title to my friend, and halfway through the movie, they actually get to the titular Frog Town, where they have all the crazy frog masks and puppets and costumes, and my friend just exclaims, "Wait a second, it's actually Frog Town?"
Yeah.
What the fuck do you think the movie's gonna be about?
Says it right there.
On the box.
Says it right there on the box.
That movie's nuts.
I haven't seen it. It's too well known for this show, but I'll have to check it out this time. But I'm very well versed now in the filmography of Roddy Piper, because in preparation for this episode, I watched 3 Roddy Piper movies back to back.
Oh my god.
Because
What an evening that was.
a big chunk of his filmography is free on YouTube, as are so many of the movies. As we started this podcast, I was kind of like, how am I going to track down a lot of these movies? I'm going to have to buy them on Amazon. It's going to be so expensive. I'm slowly learning most of the shit that we want to cover on this show is just someone just buried it on YouTube, and you can watch it for free. The quality isn't great, but that's fine. We're not looking for
and they've been uploaded for 7 years now, so they're kind of dyed in the wool on YouTube. They're not going to bother taking them
They're
down.
safe. They're on there for life.
No one will ever find them. The movie I almost chose was a film called Jungle Ground, in which Roddy Piper plays an undercover cop. Chunk of the city that he lives in has sort of been taken over by this gang called the Ragnarockers.
Nice.
Who have a gang leader named Odin.
Nice.
And one of his thugs is called Thor, and he does go around killing people with a hammer, and he's very bad at it. And he's captured by the gang, but rather than killing him, they let him go, and then they hunt him throughout the evening. And he has to get back to his girlfriend, who's also been kidnapped, and if he doesn't get back by dawn, they'll kill her.
And she'll turn into a pumpkin.
I was going to say, this sounds very similar to Deadly Prey, which you and I also watched together.
Yeah.
You guys are adorable. The reason I didn't pick that movie is because everything I just told you is the most interesting part of that movie. Unfortunately, it wasn't as nearly as entertaining as the third movie. And about 10 minutes into this movie, I'm like, okay, this is the one. This is the episode. We had to do an episode on this movie because just for my own sake, I have to watch this with somebody else just to prove that it's real, that it's an actual thing and not
a hallucination,
not like
a fever dream.
Yeah, a NyQuil-induced fever dream.
This better still be on YouTube, because then you're like, no, it was there, I swear. Sure, Kaz.
I checked this afternoon. It's still on there. Like we said, no one's getting rid of these movies. So today's movie is a 1998 science fiction extravaganza called The Shepherd, or sometimes, as some DVD box covers call it, just Shepherd, or as some other DVD...
Like J-U-S-T shit, like Just Shepherd?
No. Just
Shepherd.
So it's called The Shepherd, or Shepherd, or as some DVD box cuppers call it, Cyber City.
Ooh, look at that butt.
That has the tagline, "Before the Matrix, there was Cyber City." This movie's not the Matrix.
Does it actually predate?
It does, 1998.
Okay, wow.
So they're technically right. Before the Matrix, there was Cyber City.
We gotta rush this movie into production before the Matrix comes out.
Yes. But, yes, The Shepherd, starring Roddy Piper.
Yep.
Not as the main hero, he's actually more of a secondary villain in this, but still, oh man, he still gives 110%. He's still...
He always does.
Oh,
He
boy.
always did in the ring.
Yeah.
He's having a great time in this. Starring alongside Rowdy Roddy is former teen heartthrob C. Howell. From he was Pony Boy in The Outsiders. He was in The Hitcher and Red Dawn. He had a minor role in E.T. the Extraterrestrial, and he's probably best known for appearing in the classic comedy Soul Man, in which he plays a white college student who puts on blackface so he can go to an all-black school. This was the 80s. Yeah. I guess C. Howell didn't have a lot of staying power.
After that,
Yeah, I don't know why.
You've seen The Outsiders, right?
I have not. I don't think so.
Your elementary school didn't force you to watch that over and over again. You know, you know the book, right? Stay Gold, Pony Boy. It's about the group of young men who kind of sort of a gang, but they get into... One of them accidentally kills a rival gang member and they kind of have to go on the run. So it was a movie by Francis Ford
Warriors?
Coppola.
Yeah, that's all that comes to mind for me.
Yeah.
The Warriors.
Outsiders. It was a movie with...
I remember the Outsiders comic book.
It was really well known for... It was the first movie of a lot of up-and-coming superstars. It was the first movie of Matt Dillon, Ralph Macchio, Patrick Swayze, Rob Lowe, Emilio Estevez, a really, really early movie for Tom Cruise. He has maybe like 2 lines in it. But C. Howell was the lead. He was the lead actor in that. And it's kind of funny, you list off all those names and and he's the only one that didn't go on to do anything else.
Maybe he didn't do Soul Man, he'd be a bigger name than he was.
Ooh boy, Soul Man. Yeah, that's a whole thing.
Yeah.
And the other recognizable name in this is Bill himself, David Carradine.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
sweet.
Yes.
Love that man.
Man, we could do an entire podcast alone on the filmography of David Carradine.
I agree.
Oh man, I went over some of that stuff. We might do a David Carradine month.
We gotta-
because
that would be wonderful.
God, he's in some weird fucking shit.
Gotta do like one of those like, sword and sandal kind of like Turkish barbarian films, because I remember
I'm sure he's on there.
there's a couple of those.
Yep. So yes, this movie is directed by Peter Heyman, who has one other movie credit to his name, Leslie Nielsen's Stupid Little Golf Video.
Oh man.
Does that bring back memories?
No, well, I reckon, I can picture the cover.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's
Oh
sort
my
of just
God.
like a goof on like how to golf videos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the only other thing he's directed.
Oh,
Oh, man.
Written by someone named Nelu Giran, who's done a bunch of other awful-looking science fiction stuff. He was the producer on some TV show called Star Hunter, which I've never heard of before. But probably most notably, this movie is executive produced by the great schlockmeister Roger Corman.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, so that gives you an idea of the quality that we're probably going into.
A lot of heavy ideas that, when you actually break it down and execute them, they're quite bad.
So I'll show you. This is the DVD box cover I found here. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this? What kind of movie do you think we're going to get here?
Oh my.
Well, only one man can deliver us from evil. The Shepherd. How much of this is like a biblical movie?
Oh, pretty huge.
Okay.
Oh yeah, religion plays a huge part into this movie.
Okay.
I can tell you right now, the DVD box cover we're looking at, there's a UFO right on top of C. Howell, and it kind of has like a beam. I've just noticed this right now. It's kind of beaming him up. That nothing like that happens in the movie.
Okay.
I just noticed that right
A
now.
misleading cover. No way.
Well, you said you didn't finish the movie, so we don't know.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
I finished. When did I say that?
Oh, I thought you said you only watched like half of it, and you're like, okay, this is the movie.
No, I watched 10 minutes of it before I realized this is the movie we're doing.
Oh,
I've
okay.
seen all of it.
Okay, I see.
I've seen it. Trust me, I've
seen some.
You've
I've seen
it
some shit.
To, completion.
I've seen The Shepherd. All right, let's not waste any more time. Let's dive into 1998's The Shepherd, or Shepherd, or Cyber City. And we'll see you after the break.
Just a heads up, Shari and I may start making out. Do you want to start making out during this movie?
I wouldn't put it past us.
All right.
Okay.
Kaz, we may need the room at one point.
I mean, can I call someone to come make out with me?
No.
Okay. How awkward for me. All right.
All right.
Well, I'm going to sit in total silence now. Just be the third wheel, and it's turned weird. And we're back! We're back from the distant future of 20-something or other. They never really establish it. You know, you really don't appreciate what a leap in technology The Matrix was until you watch a movie that came out literally the year before. Mm-hmm. I knew The Matrix changed things. I didn't realize it changed it that much. But I'm glad that they clarified before The Matrix.
I was gonna say,
like, Cyber City.
Because now I know The Matrix stole the slow time bullets effect, or the bullet time effect from this movie. Though I must say The Matrix certainly perfected it. I think they could have, like, made this movie, like, 15 minutes shorter if they just took out all the fucking slow-mo.
Yeah, so that was bonkers insane.
What the fuck?
That was fucking crazy.
What the fuck was that movie?
Yeah.
What were we watching?
That's the name. That's the name of the podcast.
Finished it and I don't even know.
Mm-hmm. We were taking notes and everything.
Yeah, I tried to study, but man.
Yeah, it's my second time sitting through that. It's still not all that much clearer for me. Mm-hmm. All right, so for you at home, I'll try my hardest to summarize The Shepherd for you. So it's sometime in the future.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know when. We don't know what has happened to the Earth.
Satellites started shooting lasers at each other in space, and so everybody moved underground.
Yeah.
It's summed up in an opening narration.
Over the opening credits.
Oh, yeah. But the monologue went on for far too long.
And while we were busy tearing each other apart, old Mother Earth fought back. She chased us underground. Those that refused to come were fried up top. Some lessons are hard learned.
From what I can figure out, humanity fought too many wars, they blew themselves up. This movie has a big religious... It has something to say about religion. Mm-hmm. Not really sure what, but basically it's the apocalypse, it's the dystopian future, and all of humanity has gone underground. Mm-hmm. And by all of humanity, I mean maybe 500 people at the most. Yes,
you might see 20 of them at any given time.
Yeah.
But it seems like no one is an atheist in this future. They all believe in something.
Yeah, and there are these like warring cults, but we only ever really see two of them.
Warring religions. Mm-hmm. They mention a couple of them. Yeah, so we'll go into each of them. There's the Miles cult, the Sophia cult, the Rizzo cult, and a newsreader at one point mentions the neo-jihads, but we never get to see them. So it's implied that
that would be far too interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Well, too
many moving pieces.
Yeah, we don't want to convolute this impeccable story up.
No, no more than the writer already fucking has, which maybe in their head seemed like a good idea, but I don't know, like, ask a friend to read your screenplay first, and then ask for some notes. Mm-hmm. See if, answer some questions if they think it doesn't make sense, because nothing in this fucking movie made any goddamn sense.
So, C. Thomas Howell is our main character, named Boris Dakota. And
more like Boring Dakota.
And he is a shepherd, which basically means an assassin. Or a hitman. Mm-hmm. We get the information that on Earth proper he used to be a cop, but now that he's underground, he's doing the cult's dirty work. We find out that he had a wife and son who were both murdered, and now he's doing hits, and he's drinking the rest of his life away, and we meet his old army buddy...
/ handler?
Yeah, we see Dakota in a bar, and he's approached by Lyndon, who's dressed like this army general.
That's like army fetish kind of guy.
And he gives Dakota his next mission, which is to eliminate a woman named Lilith, who used to belong to the Sophia cult, and he's been charged to assassinate her on behalf of Lyndon and also on behalf of Miles, the leader of the Miles cult, the appropriately named Miles cult, who is played by Rowdy Roddy Piper. Amazingly.
You know what? I gotta say, you did a really good job just now summarizing this plot, and it took a lot of our brain power to kind of figure out what the fuck was going on.
It took a lot of my attention to figure out what was
like,
happening.
well done, Captain.
in the first 10 minutes. But even then, like, there's so much confusion. Okay, I want to briefly. I wrote this down. I want to briefly sum up how the first, like, everything I just said. You know, Lyndon comes to the bar and he gives Dakota an assignment, a hit that he has to do. That sounds like a fairly straightforward scene, right?
That is like 10 pages of screenplay.
I wrote down the sequence of events that happens. This is how this unfolds in the movie. Okay, so Dakota's at the bar and he's drinking his future alcohol or whatever, and then Lyndon comes to the bar, gives him like a dossier that says, this is the next thing that you have to do. Dakota leaves without taking the dossier with him. He goes to the place where his family was murdered, and then he has like a little flashback. Then he goes back to his house. A hologram of Lyndon shows up and says, you forgot your dossier.
Chews him out for a little bit.
And then it faxes the dossier to him. Then he goes to Miles's compound where Miles and Lyndon are sort of like conspiring and talking about the plan. He goes to the compound, beats up 2 random guards, and says like, I want my memories back. That's a whole thing. We'll get into that in a second. He goes back to the bar, picks up a random woman, has sex with her somewhere, goes back to the bar, then he goes back to the compound with Lyndon, then he goes back to his house with Lyndon, and that's
and then the movie starts.
Yeah.
That's like 5 minutes where it's like, I want you to kill someone. I don't want to do it. I want to get out of this. You're the best of the best. You got to do this. All right, fine. That's maybe like 30 seconds of movie, but they spread it out.
You would think that, like, if they were going to be plotting and stuff like that, it would be world building for this dystopian future that we're watching. But nothing is really kind of revealed about this world other than it sucks.
No,
like,
we don't.
Like random pedestrians just get their ass kicked on the streets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You join a religion, you get beaten up at that religion. Then I don't know, you give them money. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Dakota goes. Okay, so so Miles and Lyndon. It's really hard to figure out what the relationship is between Miles and Lyndon.
Abusive.
It's hard to figure out who's actually calling the shots.
They have like some prehistory there, but Lyndon's main operations for Dakota seem to be, or I will provide you with cleaned up versions of some of your memories.
Okay, so we gotta talk about these glasses. We gotta talk about these VR memory glasses, which are not VR like the headset. They're just literally just 80s.
Like visor
They're
glasses.
just a pair
visor
of Oakleys,
shades.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I saw the logo on
But
the
when you
side.
put them on, they make a vroom sound, and you get to see.
You're treated to like awful green screen footage of like what should be your memories, but they're so poorly acted and they're so poorly shot.
And sometimes it's literally just like a computer screensaver
Yeah.
of just him going through all of his family photos. So yeah, this is how we find out that Dakota's family has been murdered, because occasionally he puts on these future goggles. And it cuts to, it's scenes of him, like, there's like a scene of him, like, in front of his house, just like picking his kid up and going, ha ha ha, and like, there's
you got
like,
real natural.
Yeah.
His wife is wearing like the same sexy cocktail dress she's wearing in all their memories.
Mm-hmm.
and so, the movie shows us that Lyndon also has access to these memories, and sometimes he's like, holding some sort of information from Dakota that Dakota doesn't know, or that he's forgotten. So do these glasses take memories out of his head?
Yeah, there's no explanation why he has a lack of these memories.
Mm-hmm.
And even when we cut to the end, we'll cut to, there's a big reveal near the end about what actually happened to his wife and kid, and it's like, Lyndon's like, do you want to know what happened to your wife and kid? Here, and he shows them. That wasn't a memory that he took out of Dakota. That's just information that Dakota didn't know.
Mhm.
That's not the same as taking a memory away from someone. So it's very well thought out, very well thought out.
Obviously.
So Dakota gets this hit on Lilith, who I guess is an ex-member of the Sophia cult and also a shepherd. We find out later that's meant to be some sort of secret, but who cares?
Mm-hmm.
Who cares about anything? It's really not important. And so when he goes to assassinate Lilith,
which is awesome because the aiming reticule of his guns are just like this, like target painted over the screen, no scope or anything.
Yeah.
And it really spared like no expense on the special effects of this movie.
Yeah.
Oh, the special effects
That
are
red
amazing.
crosshair was sweet.
It shows up so often.
Just as good as the green screen VR memories.
Oh, and it loudly beeps too.
Yes.
So, someone will hear you.
Oh,
Hey,
God.
I hear you're aiming at me.
Like, stealth operations are impossible in this movie because everybody's fucking loud as shit.
Yeah. I mean,
There's no subtlety to anything in this movie.
yeah, no planning seems to have gone into this. This is what's so confusing.
So Dakota the Shepherd goes to kill Lilith, but there are these other operatives that I think were also sent by Miles, and he takes them out, he kills the other hitmen, and then spares Lilith because she has a little boy, Abe. And now they're just kind of partnered up for the rest of the movie.
That triggered a flashback of
Yeah.
him with his son, so he's like, whoa, better save her, I guess.
So the three of them are on the run, but this is what's confusing, is after Lyndon convinces Dakota to go and kill Lilith. I'm doing amazing at remembering these names, by the way. Normally I couldn't remember anyone's name in Hot Dog, but I'm doing really good this time. So yeah,
Well, there's also only like 4 characters in this movie with names.
they send Dakota off to go kill Lilith, and then after he leaves the room, Miles and Lyndon are all like, after he kills Lilith, we're going to kill Dakota. It's going to be a double cross. But, so, Dakota has like Lilith in his crosshairs, and then he immediately notices 2 other thugs who have their guns pointed at Lilith. If that was the plan, why were the thugs trying to kill Lilith before Dakota could kill Lilith? That's not the order in which that should work out. Dakota should kill Lilith, and then someone else should kill Dakota.
Yeah, there you go. See, that's a thought-out plan.
Yeah,
Somebody got sloppy, and that was the screenwriter.
yeah, and that's basically the movie in a nutshell. Now, the Dakota and the mother and the kid are on the run from Lyndon and Miles and their team of thugs who can't shoot straight and
They were loud as fuck.
Yeah, and don't know how to be stealthy.
Like that one part where the guy's creeping down the stairs and he's like hiding behind the chain link fence.
Yeah.
He's like,
I can see you.
yeah. And what is he rated? He was like,
I have it. Set on my coordinates. Goodbye, soldier. Run away.
I see them!
I have the target in sight or something. Like, jeez, man. Like, you want to maybe like keep that on the DL a little?
No wonder you got shot immediately, but that happens over and over again. There's a scene later on in the movie where, so Lyndon has teamed up with some thugs or zealots or whoever, and the thugs seem to answer to Miles, but Lyndon is calling the shots.
Yeah, he's his like guy on the field.
And
he seems to not care for any of the men in his command.
He butts heads with this one guy in particular. Like, the guy's like,
You want him alive. Miles said, I don't care what Miles said. His Holiness isn't here, is he?
and then later on, we cut to a shot where Lyndon is asleep in the back of the car, and the thug is on the telecommunicator talking to Miles, and but he's in the front seat, and Lyndon's in the back seat, and he's just talking, and he's all like...
In a normal indoor speaking
Yeah,
voice.
it's all like...
He's not serious about trying to capture Dakota. He's betrayed you. Keep me informed about Lyndon. He may be coming a wayward ram.
The next thing we see is Lyndon opening his eyes and paying perfect attention to what's going on. It's like...
Well,
you're not being quiet or stealthy or whispering at all.
That kind of makes sense, though, because it's established in this universe, things will just happen in the same room where someone is asleep. There's a scene later on. Yeah, there's a scene where Dakota and Lilith, they're hiding out from Lyndon, and they camp out in this weird church that has a bed.
Just a bed conveniently in the middle.
Yeah, and that's the bed where, like, at this point in the movie, the protagonist and the female character, Bone, while her son is like asleep on the other end of the room.
After she finds out that his family has been killed. Well, she doesn't even find out that his family's been killed. She just finds out that he used to have a family and now he doesn't anymore.
Oh yeah, she puts on the VR
Yeah,
goggles.
he could have killed them. She doesn't know.
And what's crazy is, like, before she puts the glasses on, she's nothing but cold and aloof and distant to him. And the second she finds out that his family is gone or dead or whatnot, she immediately jumps on his dick. It's like, there's not even there's not even like half a second where she like takes that information in. So like,
just a light switch went on, just ding.
Oh, your family's dead? Oh, that gets me so hot. Let's bone in this church right next to my infant son, who's still traumatized from the death of his own father. In this church where the bed is where the pulpit should be, and all these candles that are just lit for some reason.
This weird sex church that we just happen to come across.
This is the sex cult's church.
Yeah, right.
There's so much to talk about this crazy movie. So Lyndon is played by an actor named Mackenzie Gray. He's a Canadian actor. He's my favorite part of the entire movie. He is great. He is the box art would have you believe that Roddy Piper is the antagonist, but really it's this guy who's sort of the main antagonist of the movie. Roddy Piper's kind of a secondary antagonist. Mackenzie Gray is great. I looked up his IMDb. The two credits that he's probably best known for, ironically, are both from Superman-related projects. He played a clone of Lex Luthor on Smallville, and he also played one of General Zod's henchmen in Man of Steel.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of the biggest thing that he's known for, but he does a lot of, Canadian stuff, Canadian TV. He kind of has a bit of a like a lisp, kind of like a little bit of a, I don't want to assume anything about his private life, but he has like he talks with a little bit of a lisp that every time he barks orders, he just sounds all bitchy.
Sophia is cutting into our territory. Our membership has gone down by 12%. Now you can put on a set of fishnet stockings, but you are not going to lure the flock back. I believe the devil can kiss my ass. This is simply a matter of hide and seek. Tell me, Miles. How do you see the light when your head's so far up your ass?
Found him. The signal's faint.
Good boy. Gold star. Shut up! Take an aspirin.
He just kind of slips out there. He's
yeah. Great, and he's just like, he's like this fabulous badass, and who just like mouths through everyone and just kills everyone. He's incredible. I love him so much. What did you guys write down? What do you want to talk about?
Well, there was the thing. He has the main actor, the guy who plays Dakota. He has this strange thing on his chest
that we couldn't figure out what it was.
We were trying to figure out what it was. At first, I thought it was a very bizarre chest hair muff,
or like a bullet wound tattoo or something. There was one shot where it was like a properly lit scene, and the quality we watched this movie was fucking awful all the way through. But we thought we could make it out, and the best we can come up with is it's his. Like it's a tattoo.
I think they just put it on.
Yeah. Her tattoos are weird too.
Oh,
She the two snakes in love.
Yeah.
I thought the weird one was she literally has she has tattoos that are outlining her boobs.
Oh, that is the most unfortunate.
That's really strange, right?
Oh, no.
It makes her look like a child's drawing of a naked woman. Is what it looks like.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you got the old circle around the boob, eh?
One thing I want to talk about is this weird underground city that we have seems to have like a mesh of different technologies. Like there will be like blinking red and green lights on like door locks.
Yeah,
there's like all the vehicles are these converted golf carts. There are newspapers, and yet there are holograms. There are these VR goggles.
I want to do a drinking game where you take a drink every time you see this one specific prop. All throughout this movie, there are these boxes on the walls that are just flashing red and green lights. There's there's a red light, there's a green light, there's a red light, there's a green light. And they're everywhere. They're in cars, they're on walls, they're in hotels, they're under desks. What purpose do those serve? What in the future, what do those lights do? Because they're everywhere.
They serve no purpose.
They're in every scene, and it's clearly just like the production company just like, we have
a surplus of these blinking lights. Like,
Put them
this
everywhere.
warehouse that this entire movie takes place in, we managed to have these blinking lights, and we're just going to fill every corridor, every hallway with it.
Put them everywhere. Put them
But
everywhere.
I kind of love...
It's the future.
Yeah,
they have blinking lights.
I love this underground city because it's kind of like a character in its own, and it's a really shitty character. But there's like flaming barrels everywhere. There's one scene where they go to one restaurant, and it's like a patio restaurant with on these huge umbrellas.
You had a really good point when like they go to this restaurant, they just have something to eat, and Jameson just says,
"Why is there an umbrella in there? It's underground."
It's a really foul, I guess, ambiance.
Yeah.
I guess
a reminder
they
of
want to remember how it used to be.
the life we left behind on the
What
surface.
the sun was.
I like how all the chefs all have chef hats. Yeah, and that's the scene too where the woman just sets herself on fire for no reason.
Yeah, she starts cackling and just burns.
They've just escaped Lyndon and his thugs, and it's like, let's get the kids something to eat. Yeah, there's an old woman sitting next to them, and she sprays herself with like what we think is perfume, and then she's like. And she just sets herself aflame, and that's the end of the scene. And they all run away.
Well, they run away. It's like,
okay,
old lady lit herself on fire. You can just go back to eating. But no, it's like, whoa, we better run away.
But there's already so many characters. All of the minor characters. There's no explanation to who they are or why they do anything. There seems to be just like roving gangs of people who just kick people for no reason.
Yeah,
like Dakota.
It's just a thing to do in this city. It's just like randomly beat people up. It's a really tough town.
Yeah, like even like Miles, he just kind of walks around beating the shit out of people while quoting scripture.
Well, he's Rowdy Roddy Piper. I mean, he did that all the time back in WWF. When he's not filming his like closed circuit Piper's Pit segments where he's like spouting off his religious doctrine, he's just kicking random ass.
The Lord moves in mysterious ways. The Lord moves. The Lord moves. Can you feel it, movement? Move this sinner, Lord, and move this sinner too, Lord.
Like the real Rowdy Piper.
Time to kick some holy ass.
I want to talk briefly about we see Dakota put the glasses on a lot, but there is one scene where Roddy Piper puts the glasses on, and when Dakota puts the glasses on, he sees his happy family and his son's birthday and everything. When Roddy Piper puts the glasses on, he sees himself in a loincloth carrying the cross. He sees himself as Jesus. And
it's always that same shot. It's like his only memory is a loop of him carrying the cross from one end of the screen to the other.
And what's the most baffling thing about that is before we even
meet... It's pretty baffling in itself.
Before we even meet the character of Miles in the movie, in the first 3 minutes of the movie, where Dakota is giving the opening narration explaining what this world is, there's shots of people milling around near the exploding drums and whatnot, all these different cults and everything like that. Really randomly, it cuts to that shot of Roddy Piper carrying the cross, but the background hasn't been completed.
Yeah, it seems like an editing mistake. That
It
they just left in the movie.
So, yeah.
Somebody fucked up in the editing bay.
That's just a flat-out editing mistake. And I think you could make that argument for the entire goddamn... The movie feels like a massive editing error.
So if any amateur or fledgling editors want to challenge, track down that exact scene in the movie, and that's a free green screen effect of Hot Rod carrying the crucifix that you can just do some weird green screen test with.
Okay, let us spend some time talking at great length about David Carradine.
Oh,
so
yes.
David Carradine plays a character named Ventriloquist. And you would assume that means he is a ventriloquist, and I think that's what they intended, because he does have a puppet.
Yes,
He's with a puppet in every scene. He pops up a little bit at the beginning of the movie, but he starts interacting with Dakota when Dakota is briefly separated from the woman and the kid.
What the fuck were they doing there? He was trying to find a motel or something for them to check into while they were on the run?
No, it's a weird thing where he gets them away from the people who are trying to kill them, and then they get to garage, and then she says, I know a place where we can go, and he says, when are we leaving? And she says, you're not coming with us. So they split up. And then there's just this brief section in the middle of the movie where C. Thomas Howell isn't with them, but then after a series of random events, he just gets back together with them. Why did we need to break them up?
Who cares?
In the first place. Yeah, exactly. Who cares?
For conflict.
Yeah, right.
And because
so they could reunite later.
And because without them,
we would not have the David Carradine.
We would not have David Carradine. Mm-hmm. So David Carradine plays a ventriloquist who is in this hotel that C. Thomas Howell stumbles upon, and we see him drinking with the dummy. The dummy only talks a couple of times.
Yeah.
And not when his face is on screen. It has to be in its own shot.
So David Carradine himself, he almost seems like Robin Williams, the genie in Aladdin, because like he keeps slipping into like old actors and referencing old movie lines.
Yeah.
But which I imagine were meant for the dummy. But
that's a good point.
But it's David Carradine like playing all these different characters.
He's more of an impressionist than he is a ventriloquist because the dummy's
saying nothing.
The dummy rarely
The dummy has two lines. One is the big black train coming your way.
Big black train coming after your sorry ass.
Coming up for your ass.
Yeah, and that's the only thing the dummy fucking says. Meanwhile, David Carradine is talking like John Wayne and referencing the Wizard of Oz and shit. It's so fucking weird.
He at first he sounds like an old-timey prospector.
Mm-hmm. Buy you a drink, stranger? Come on in.
Then he starts talking like Marlon Brando in The Godfather.
Understand your hostility, Senator. You spend your whole life trying to be careful. Then somebody comes along and makes you an offer you can't refuse.
Then he does John Wayne.
You baked bread today, and you took a bath. You smell all over like soap. I could find you in the dark, and I'm only half Apache.
And then he just does like this very stereotypical gay lisp.
We're sorry. She hasn't been herself ever since that bastard hit her.
Yeah, and the dummy has like a woman's wig on, but it's a man underneath. And so yeah,
the big takeaway is we don't think David Carradine knows how to throw his voice or operate a ventriloquist dummy.
Or know what a ventriloquist is.
or was remotely sober for any part of this.
Well, that's a given.
He is off his rocker on something because I don't think he ever gets up. I think he does
He's laying in that bed the whole time.
He's laying on his bed or he's sitting down. He never gets up
The
once.
only scene where he is, like, not sitting down is the odd dream sequence that C. Thomas Howell is woken out of when he's having, like, this dream where he's, like, sleeping with his wife, and then he gets waken up where he thinks, like, the wife is, like, strangling him or something. Yeah. And then he wakes up and, like, no, it's actually David Carradine using the ventriloquist dummy to strangle him. And that's the only time he's not laying down, where he's strangling the dude with the dummy.
And David Carradine survives the movie, yet, like he tries to strangle Dakota, and Dakota leaves and doesn't kill him, or even hit him, and then later on, Lyndon and his men try to find Dakota and whatnot. They break in on him, and they say, "Where is he?" He gives them no answer. Well, the dummy said, what happened to Dakota? The dummy's like, "He's up your ass." And then Lyndon has a really weird line where he says,
I haven't heard the truth like that in a long time.
And he leaves. And that's the end of the scene.
And that's it.
And that's it for David Carradine. That's a wrap on David Carradine.
It is probably one of the most embarrassing things David Carradine has ever done. And keep in mind, David Carradine died of autoerotic asphyxiation. Too soon? We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Okay. Yeah.
So, God, we'll talk about more of the plot, but there's just so many random characters we gotta mention. So, after he runs into David Carradine, the mom and the kid have a run-in of their own with this random cannibal who snatches the kid from the car, ties him up hanging from the ceiling, sort of like dances around him in a merry jig going, "Ooh, fresh meat,
I'm gonna eat you."
And then immediately the mom rescues the kid and they're out of danger.
That entire sequence, like, spanned 30 seconds, I think.
Yeah.
But then Dakota runs into him later, and we find out that the cannibal has some sort of like bloodhound-like ability to smell where the kid is. So that's how Dakota finds them again. He literally puts the cannibal on a chain and
leads to the kid, and then has to rescue the mother and the kid from the cannibal he led to them.
Yeah, exactly. They wouldn't have been in trouble if he didn't lead the cannibal directly to them too. But and now they're back. Now they're all back together again.
You owe me after I almost assassinated you, and now just saved.
And now brought you a cannibal to try and eat you.
To endanger you with a cannibal.
But also, you have to remember that in this world, it seems like there's no shortage of food. He's just a cannibal. Why not?
I love. There's a line earlier where they're driving around, and this made me laugh every time. They're driving around, and they say, "Oh, we gotta get some food for the kid," and he goes, "I know a good Thai place." It's all like, it is the apocalypse. You are underground in an underground society. You know a good Thai.
It's that patio restaurant.
Think about the implications of that. He knows a good Thai place.
Yeah, so there's several.
There's more than one Thai place. Do you think that there's like an underground Yelp where you can combine the things? Okay, so let's talk about our favorite character, whose name is Friar Rizzo, but for the purposes of this podcast, we are going to refer to as clairvoyant Bookie Pope.
Because that is his only function in this movie. So, periodically throughout the movie, the action, whatever action we were witnessing up at this point, will stop. So we can intercut with this Bookie character who, constantly has, this smoker's lung way of talking. Yeah. And he recaps the action, and then he asks if anybody wants to place any bets.
I got Miles and his Church of the Holy Process up against Sophia and the Amazon Bitch Queens. It is our special. It is our Palm Sunday special. And you must grease my palm. Okay, let's go.
Wants to get in on the action.
That's all that happens. And he shows up,
a lot.
14 fucking times throughout the movie, he just pops up sporadically.
Alright, we got the shepherd and the lady going up this way, and we got Lyndon and his men. 40-1, the shepherd makes it out alive. Who wants some of that action?
Up, the down staircase to fucking bingo. If you can't pray, and you want to stay, then play bingo. Let me get the cards. Get the cards.
Well, and not only that, but he's also a giant, building-sized hologram.
Yeah!
Of his face in the middle of the city.
Yeah, it must be awful living in this part of town where this huge blown-up face with a guy who talks like a frog is stuck in his throat just keeps calling out all these bets that people can play.
So, are people betting on this?
I was wondering, is he watching the same movie as us?
Yeah, and how
is he a companion character to this movie?
How does he know? Because we don't
watcher.
Yeah.
We don't go into, I guess, magical, mystical stuff in this, but there's this character that just seems to know everything that's going on with the other characters. So does he have some sort of clairvoyance where he can know what's going to happen in the future? And if he knows what's going to happen in the future, he's made the decision to just bet on it.
Yeah, place the bets.
And if he knows what's going to happen, why is he placing bets? Because he already knows. He already knows the outcome of what's going on.
He stacked the deck. He's a cheat.
He's got to keep it interesting for his worshippers.
He's got to keep it interesting for us. I wonder if we should have been placing bets whenever he came up. We paused the movie and then we just
it's like a choose your own adventure.
Yeah, exactly.
Little did we know that's what type of film this was.
And at the end of the movie, I'm like, I'm 40 in the hole. Shit.
Well, he was clearly the right religion to back because he's the only one that survives
near
the end of the movie.
What a twist.
What a twist. Yeah, and then, plot-wise, there's not a lot much more to recap. Dakota and Lilith get, meet back up, and he kind of becomes a surrogate father for Abe, and then they have awkward, weird sex in the church. Yeah, and then Lyndon and his goons show up, and through their own stupidity, Abe gets kidnapped by Lyndon.
Oh yeah, he tells him oh shit, they're outside. Abe, go and hide. And Abe just runs outside, where they are, where
right into the bad guy's arms.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah.
We find out that Lilith is also a shepherd, and I did write this down. So she's with the Sophia cult, which are all like
women, I guess.
Amazon warrior Xena. Yeah, so she was with them, and she was their shepherd, and she had a husband, and the Sophia cult, for some reason, wanted to sacrifice Abe, and because they obviously said no, they
killed her husband.
Oh, they killed her husband, and that's why the kid doesn't talk. Because
we forgot to mention he.
The kid doesn't talk.
He's not supposed to talk, but he says a couple of words.
Well, I mean, that's the big reveal. It's like he talked.
Yeah.
He must like you, Dakota. I really can't. I know. I'm continuing to dig this hole about like why are we trying to make sense of this movie when none of it makes any sense. But like, I want to ask this question again. So we know why the Sophia cult wanted Lilith dead. Because she ran away from them and she took the sacrifice away and whatnot. But why does Lyndon and Miles want her dead? And why do they hire Dakota? And why are they doing this big, complicated...
And why do they want to kill Dakota?
Yeah, why the double cross? None of it's really... I mean, they have a reveal at the end, but that doesn't tie into this.
Not at all.
No.
Yeah, it's because there's a lot of really heavy-handed and really poorly thought-out religious allegories in this movie. And because the Lord works in mysterious ways, and they don't have to answer to us.
I mean, Roddy...
That's why. That's what...
Gosh.
God, Roddy he legit gets crucified at one point in this movie by Lyndon.
Which was according to his glasses fantasy, which is what he always wanted anyway.
And my theory is Lyndon wants to fulfill like a Judas position in this, religious story.
I think you're taking that too literally. I think that was just like one of Lyndon's many badass lines.
Yeah.
Like when he kills the follower and says, "Do you want fries with that?"
I like how he said to Abe at one point, "Sometimes you gotta grab life by the throat, because that's where the fun is."
Yeah.
The throat.
The throat.
Okay, my favorite line by him is, "Take an aspirin."
My favorite Lyndon line is, "I'm the only person that doesn't bullshit you about your bullshit."
There's a lot of good lines on
Lyndon's great. Lyndon's great. So we get to the climax. Lyndon has kidnapped the kid, and then he gets to Miles' compound and then leaves the kid in the car. It's all like, you left your hostage behind, dude.
Yeah, they Dakota and Lilith show up in their golf cart, and the second they step out, there's Abe fine.
I don't know. I guess it's like if you kidnap the kid to get them to follow you, why not just say
at gunpoint,
follow me? And anyway, so Lyndon abandons the kid. There's like some sort of turf war going on between Miles' followers and Sophia's followers.
Very unimpressive looking from what we did see of it.
There's one random robot with machine gun arms that we don't
severely underutilized.
Yeah,
if you're gonna more interesting.
If you're gonna build that, put that in more scenes.
Yeah, it's probably the most expensive piece of equipment they have in the movie.
Yeah,
and they only had it for like an hour, so they shot all their scenes.
So Lyndon betrays Miles. Crucifies him to a wall, which doesn't hold him for terribly long because
he's Hot Rod and he's the strongest man in the world.
The way Roddy McDowell goes out is
Roddy McDowell.
I've been trying so hard not to do that. Like when I chose this, I'm like, okay, I'll get my information. Like, I'll talk about Roddy McDowell. Shit, Roddy Piper.
Yeah,
I keep saying,
Roddy.
Yes, Roddy McDowell from Planet of the Apes is in this movie. Sorry, Roddy Piper, Rowdy Roddy. Mm-hmm. Sorry, everyone. Roddy Piper
breaks free of the crucifixion.
He gets his hands drilled into a wall, and you can
Roddy Piper is stronger than Christ.
Yeah.
And rips his hands right out of
And then he runs out into like the middle of the battle, sees the leader of the Sophia clan, who I'm going to assume is called Sophia, because I guess that's how this works.
I would guess so.
And then they sort of like run towards each other, and Roddy screams, "I am the Alpha and the Omega!" And then they just blow up. And that's the end of Roddy. And then...
Lyndon shows Dakota like the flashback of...
the big reveal. Big reveal time. This is what happened to Dakota's family.
So what apparently happened was in all his... flashbacks were like, Dakota's making love to his wife near a statue. What actually happened was Lyndon violently raped and murdered his wife, and then his child turned out to be the actual statue, and then he killed his son.
so...
In a really terrible transition, the statue turns into the sun.
Yeah, it's just this morph effect.
But yeah, Lyndon shows him, like, the VR memory of, like, what actually happened, and I would assume, like, people seem pretty incapacitated when they're viewing the memories through these VR goggles. Why didn't Lyndon just escape or kill him?
Yeah, you just stood there like, oh, I'll wait for your beating now.
Well,
Yeah.
but as soon as Dakota takes the glasses off, Lyndon gets down on his knees and he says, "Do it."
Mm.
So I think that's meant to imply that Lyndon is tired of carrying this burden, and is all like, "Yeah, punish me for my sins," even though nothing we've seen about this character implies that
he's remorseful.
We haven't seen any remorse.
Yeah.
No, zero remorse. Yeah,
which kind of like I don't know my Bible studies that well, but I don't know if like Judith had a death wish or something, but that would play into my theory at least.
Well,
and why Dakota would not kill him, because he's on his knees like, "Kill me now," and he says no. And that's when Lyndon takes out a knife and stabs him in the gut, and Dakota just like turns around and shoots him anyway. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's evil is punished.
Well, I mean, Judas had guilt.
Yeah, okay.
Judas had guilt, and Judas ultimately hung himself.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Mm.
And then became Dracula.
As we later found out.
Yeah, and then the three of them go to the door to the outside world, and we've been repeatedly told that the outside world is poison or something, but they keep saying, like, maybe they lied about that. Abe unlocks the door with the key code, and at that point in time, the movie's almost over. See, like, my thought process was, how does the kid know the key code to the door? You know what? Fuck it. It doesn't matter. The movie's almost over.
They go on faith anyway, because it's like, the surface world could be poisonous. Like, could be
on fire.
Yeah, and they were also saying like, oh, we don't know where the door is to get to the surface. We don't know if it even works. We don't even know. Yeah, but they asked the kid, "Yeah, do you think we should go to the surface?" And she's like, "Sure, why not? Take a shot at it." And yeah,
beep, beep, boop. Okay, we're in.
Doors open.
Yeah.
It's like everything's fine up on the surface.
Yeah,
and
it's a beautiful sunny day.
Yeah, our three people exit the underground, and yeah, all bets are off. Movie ends.
Fade to black.
Yeah.
Any other passing thoughts that you guys wrote down that you want to talk about? We're going to talk about the topless news reporter.
Oh god!
Just for some reason,
that was just thrown in there.
That feels like maybe like they were trying to do something like a RoboCop type thing. Like they were trying to add like a level of satire or something to it. It's just they're really bad at it because this movie's really bad at everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess we could mention like how kind of dark and murky all the shots are. It's like for half the movie you can't make out barely anything.
I mean, it wasn't helped by the fact that
we were watching it on like a shitty like resolution on YouTube.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, this movie was just an absolute chore to watch.
Yeah,
there was that one sequence during the end where it looked like it cut away from every interior. Okay, so every interior shot of this movie looks like it was like shot like on this soundstage in this warehouse. And everything's like dark lit and lit by fire. Dimly lit by like fire out of a flaming barrel. And then there's one scene where Lyndon is like just in a random hallway that is like fluorescently lit.
Mm-hmm.
And
where did this come from?
Yeah, why is this so much different than everything else we've seen? Why is this the only shot that's there? I swear to God, that was the actual hallway of this like warehouse facility that they're shooting in. And they just needed, 1/2 second of pickup footage, and they got it. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right. So was that it?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's fucking it for me.
That's about all I really have to say about this. So, Jameson, Shari, would you recommend The Shepherd?
Ooh, that is one.
You know what? I'll say this. I'm not saying yes.
Okay.
But I am recommending other people watch this movie so they can try to understand it and then come back and explain it to me.
See if you can figure this. Don't watch it for your own enjoyment, but watch it for us, for our benefit.
Kaz mentioned before that he looked on Wikipedia on this and said there is no entry on Wikipedia for this.
Yeah, there's no Wikipedia page for this movie.
Reason we
nobody actually took the time to. We probably took the most time of anybody in the world.
Probably
this
is probably the most comprehensive thing you'll find about this movie on the internet. First of all, like normally I try and find some information on these movies so we have something to talk about on the podcast. I can't find anything about this movie. I can't. There's no retrospectives, no no video interviews or anything like that. It's hard to find anything about this movie because it has such a generic title, and so many other things are called The Shepherd or Shepherd or something like that.
What's the other name of this movie? Like The Cybernator?
Cyber City.
Cyber City.
Cyber
There's nothing cyber about this fucking city.
No, it's only...
Well, don't forget those blinking light panels on
Right,
the walls
yeah.
now.
Well, yeah, the VR glasses and everything.
No.
Yeah, no, that's only there because it wanted to capitalize on the Matrix. That's why that's there. Also, just looking at the Cyber City box art, there's Dakota, there's Lilith.
Who's the blonde lady?
Yeah, who's that? Who's the blonde lady?
There's no blonde lady in
There's
this
no
movie.
blonde lady in this movie.
That's not even his wife. That's
Who's the Terminator? in
I
the
think
background,
maybe that's
too?
Roddy Piper. I can't tell.
No, that's not right.
No.
I will say, wrestling fans, if you want to see a movie with a lot of really ham-fisted and poorly shot Jesus imagery featuring Rowdy Roddy Piper as Christ, I guess this is your movie.
You know, we could do like I said, we could do an entire month on David Carradine. We could do an entire month on Roddy Piper. Roddy Piper has been in
A lot of
like
shit.
so many terrible looking movies. Speaking of, there is a Shepherd 2. Which
No.
came out the very next year. I believe it was
No.
probably shot at the exact same time.
Probably
as
on the
this.
same day.
Yes.
No.
Different director.
Oh, they didn't bring back what the fuck's his face?
Leslie Nielsen? No, they brought in some other guy. But yeah, it's C. Thomas Howell and the girl. And delightfully, although somewhat confusing, Mackenzie Craig is also in it. So I guess he survived being shot at the end of it, which is good because he's coming back. We won't be doing an episode on Shepherd 2. I probably won't even watch Shepherd 2 because there's no point. There's no point. So yes, so to close things up, do either of you have any thoughts or memories you want to share about the late Roddy Piper?
I remember the day that he died, I was visiting my family in Winnipeg, which is where Rowdy Roddy Piper is from, I believe.
I think he might be from Saskatchewan, actually.
Oh, okay.
But I can look that
Well,
up.
some prairie province in Canada. But as I mentioned before, I was not a huge wrestling fan growing up, and incidentally, neither was my family. So I was hanging out with them. I was reading the paper because, that's what you do when you're visiting your relatives at the summer cottage.
He's from Saskatoon.
All right, so relatively close. And I mentioned to them, a wrestler died, and the family said ha ha ha. Oh, who cares? It was Rowdy Roddy Piper, and there was legit shock and sadness in their eyes because I think even in his heyday, that his legacy resonated with Canadian populace.
Sorry, you actually are correct. He was born in Saskatoon, but he was raised in Winnipeg. So you
That's
were,
why he struck a chord with my...
You were correct. His real name was Roderick Toombs, which begs the question, that's a great wrestler name.
Yeah.
Why didn't he just go
Roderick
with that?
Toombs, yeah.
But he went by Roddy Piper because he was really in tune with his Scottish heritage. And when he was younger, he actually taught himself to learn how to play the bagpipes.
Nice.
Yes, so Roddy Piper came out of that.
Well, now his legacy lives on in professional wrestling as Ronda Rousey has adopted the persona as Rowdy Ronda.
He passed the torch to her. That's an
his
official,
jacket, his leather jacket was literally passed to her.
That's an official thing. Like they said, someone unofficially gave Ronda Rousey the
jacket.
They gave her the nickname Rowdy when she was starting off, and she actually said, "I feel uncomfortable using that because that's Roddy Piper's thing." And then after they met and worked together, Roddy bestowed it upon her, and that's actually quite a. I think her first. I remember because I did read the Wikipedia page on Roddy Piper. Her first official WWE wrestling match, she got on the mic and she gave a shout out to Roddy, who had passed before she got a chance to do that. So that's a little heartwarming, and I think that's a heartwarming note to probably end this podcast. Shari, thanks for coming and hanging out with us.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, no
Yay.
problem.
Is
My
it gonna,
pleasure.
Is it going to feel weird? Because I know you listen to this podcast while you're working away. Is it going to be weird hearing your voice from the past talking to you in the future?
Well, I mean, I do know how, things like computers work and the radio exists. But yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of my own voice, so it might be a little weird.
You know what? Neither am I, which is why it's weird that I decided to start a podcast. Editing this thing is so hard because a lot of the times it's just like, ugh, who's that asshole?
You can always pitch shift you down to sound deeper.
Yeah. Welcome to the fuck is
Welcome to the fuck is this?
Ooh,
Yeah,
sultry edition.
that was Shari.
All right, well, join us next week where we continue
WrestleMania.
WrestleMania continues, brother.
What you gonna do when the fuck is this rush wild on you?
I always get Hogan and what is it?
Macho Man?
Yeah, I always get them confused.
They were heated rivals, and I think they were friends in the storyline, but in real life they hated each other.
Well, I don't get them confused. I know what Macho Man looks like, and I know what Hogan looks like, but I think I get their catchphrases. Yeah, like it's the fact that Hogan says "brother" and Macho Man says "oh yeah," and for some reason I've always mashed those two together in my head.
You machoed man them together.
Yeah. All right. We won't do better than that. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
See you next week.
Bye, guys.